Hey guys, so I'll be doing my top 10 movies of 2012. Now, I don't usually do these, I just wanted to do one this year, because throughout all the good movies they had this year, because they had a lot of great movies, and on top of that they had a lot of bad movies, but these were just the 10 that really stood out in my mind as the best from 2012. Jump Street. This film was starred by Jonah Hill and Michael Pascal. Pretty much, they go back to high school and they try and stop a drug operation. This is a comedy, and it's actually a funny comedy. There was a lot of movies that came out these past few years that just weren't very funny. There's a lot of like Adam Sandler movies that are supposed to kind of do the same thing, where they're supposed to kind of have a plot. But for the most part, it's just constant humor, and that's what they did in this film. And most of the time when they do these movies, I'll like to watch them once, but it never really becomes my favorites that I go back to once every few months or so. But this one was really funny, and I really do suggest 21 Jump Street. Argo. This movie was starring Ben Affleck, produced by Ben Affleck, and directed by Ben Affleck. So you think it wouldn't be a great movie, because frankly Ben Affleck isn't the greatest star in movies. But he actually did a pretty good job in this, but I thought the best roles were some of the side roles, like Bryan Cranston made a role in it, who is doing Breaking Bad right now and is playing Walter White. So it had some decent star power in it. It was a pretty interesting story. And like seeing people like Bryan Cranston, I didn't feel like I was just watching it because Bryan Cranston was in it or Ben Affleck, but I actually did enjoy the movie for the story, and it's a pretty interesting idea. Not only for a movie, but it was just a pretty interesting sort of real life event that happened, but it didn't feel like it was going all documentary on you. It was a very interesting movie, and I'd advise watching it at least once. WreckIt Ralph got way too much credit. That being said, it was a very fun family movie. It felt like it was really trying to be a Pixar movie at the same time. I mean, I know it was owned by Disney and all, but I think they could have done a different, more creative thing from being a different company. But it did actually really work very well. I don't know what it was. A lot of parts felt a little weird on my first time watching it. Some things were just ridiculous. But by the end, the second time I watched it, I did really enjoy it when I kind of ignored what I thought was weird about it. And WreckIt Ralph was just a fun experience. Next on my list, I think you guys might think this should be a little higher since this is a comic-based channel, but it's the Avengers. I really did enjoy the Avengers, and I think it did pretty good as like an action movie, but most of its problems were like the little story. It didn't have very much story. Its story was pretty decent, but I felt like some of their strong characters that were kind of like Iron Man's supposed to get more serious throughout each movie, and I think his progression between 1 and 2 were completely destroyed by the Avengers. He felt like he was just making random jokes the whole time, and I hated that about him. Thor and Captain America acted out of character from what we've seen from the first 2 movies. Some of the comedy just felt a little odd, and like really the biggest character that bothered me was Captain America. I mean, he just felt out of character to me. Maybe you guys disagree. I bet a lot of you guys do. But I thought it was a great movie, don't get me wrong. I just thought there were some weird things. And also, like, Hawkeye, how did they know that he didn't turn? Like, Black Widow just, like, punched him in the face, and it was all better. So I guess, like, it, like, disconnected something from some sort of weird connection from Loki. I have no idea how they explain that. But maybe Hawkeye was, like, lying to get out of going to jail or something like that. I don't know. I guess you guys might have some weird reason for doing it, but every time I've seen it, I was kind of confused by that. Overall, the cast did work together pretty well, and there was a lot of cool action sequences that held the movie up. I just would have liked a little more story for something we were waiting 6 years to get to. Overall, it's still a great movie, though. Next on my list is Premium Rush. This was starring JGL, who actually did a really good role in this. He was freshly out of The Dark Knight Rises, and this movie just kind of seems to take a sideline compared to that one. because, of course, Dark Knight Rises was going to be a much bigger movie. And this one didn't get very much credit. I actually thought it was a really fun movie. The comedy was pretty good in it. Like and they didn't keep it completely comedical like some movies. This movie was kind of a adventure-ish movie, and I just thought it was really good. You started to actually care about all the characters a little, and even the side characters, you understood their personalities and what they liked, and it overall kept me on like on the edge of my seat, and I was enjoying every minute of it. So I don't know why it didn't get very good scores and stuff, but I do suggest Premium Rush. Next on my list is The Hobbit. I knew I would enjoy this one just because it was another Lord of the Rings kind of installment, and I did enjoy it. I actually enjoyed it almost as much as I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings movie. Of course, it actually started off a little slow, but I don't care. It was a good story. It kept me excited, and I know some people didn't enjoy it because it started out a little slow, and a lot of younger audiences wouldn't enjoy it that much, and I've heard about a lot of younger audiences not enjoying it, so that's kind of unfortunate with The Hobbit. But even if you're like a fan of like Harry Potter or something kind of fantasy, it's a great movie. And even those people that didn't enjoy it, that were like fans of Harry Potter and stuff, I kind of get why. If some of you guys are more of those people who enjoy fast-paced, more to-the-point movies, and this is trying to set up the further movies. And I think that the sequels will be better and even on par, if not better, than The Lord of the Rings. We'll just see from here on out how much attention to detail Peter Jackson puts into the sequels. Amazing Spider-Man, a movie that a lot of people either kind of enjoyed or hated. I don't know. I know why a lot of people hated it. Some people hated it because the lizard was different. Some people didn't like Andrew Garfield as the Amazing Spider-Man. And there are some things I didn't enjoy. Like, it kind of bothered me that Spider-Man was pretty much just jumping around all the time. Well, not really Spider-Man, but Peter Parker was acting like a little too normal when he's supposed to kind of be that stereotypical nerd. And I know that's not necessarily something that had to be in there, but it just felt like Andrew Garfield wasn't what Peter Parker was. I thought Tobey Maguire actually played better Peter Parker. He wasn't as good of an actor as Andrew Garfield, I don't think, but I did think that he did a better job as Peter Parker. But as Spider-Man, I thought Andrew Garfield was far superiorly written, and just he played it a little better. I thought he had more fun in it, but he was still serious, and it wasn't just all drama like in the Sam Raimi sagas, and it just didn't feel as ridiculous. Like, some parts just felt a little campy and bad, and not in like a charming Adam West Batman way, like he was trying, like that was kind of their intention. But that's what earns it number 4. There's a lot of great things about the movie, and a lot of bad things about that movie. That's what only earns it number 4. These last 3 movies, I just have to say, are all fantastic movies that could easily have been the movie of the year, but these are just the order I put them in, mostly because of my personal biases. Number 3 is Skyfall. Now, this was probably one of my favorite James Bond movies yet. It was that good middle line between dark, modern storytelling like Batman and that kind of James Bond-ish feel. I like how it was a real throwback, and you could tell it was kind of a 50-year celebration. I think Daniel Craig did a really good job as the character. Quantum of Solace I really didn't like. Just all the camera angles, a lot about the story. Like, the thing that really took me out of that movie, I only think I saw it once, because I just hated all the camera angles. It switched literally like every 2 seconds. It was a shaky camera. It just bothered me, even when I first saw it in theaters. So that's why I didn't like Quantum of Solace, and I think Skyfall really redeems the James Bond saga once again, so I hope they keep that up. Number 2, Django Unchained. This was one of the, is easily interchangeable for number 1. I just put this one there. It was kind of hard to choose. I just decided from number 1 and 2. Django Unchained was great. It was a great movie about slavery, very interesting. I felt very invested into the character, and you could tell it was nice spaghetti western with Tarantino just doing at his best. It's probably one of my favorite Tarantino movies other than Pulp Fiction. I really enjoy Reservoir Dogs, but I think this one's a little better than that. So Django Unchained is a definite watch. It's still in theaters right now, so I definitely advise you check it out. And yeah. And number one for me has to be The Dark Knight Rises. I really enjoy how this caps off the whole series. Like, number 1 and 2, I thought Batman Begins was good, and so was The Dark Knight. I really did enjoy those movies, actually. But I thought Dark Knight Rises was the best because it just felt like a great ending metaphor for what the first 2 movies were. Because, like, when he climbed out of the Lazarus pit, it was just... That's when he came back as Batman. Technically, he came back earlier, but you could tell that it didn't quite feel right. You felt the adventure and action, but just something didn't feel right. And he really felt like he was back in his kind of Batman groove. And it was really satisfying ending. I don't really want to spoil anything for it. It just came out on DVD. You can get it fairly cheap. I just bought it yesterday for $15 from Walmart. So it's a really great movie. I'd advise picking it up on Blu-ray or DVD. I think it was just the best movie of the year. Anne Hathaway did pretty good for her role. JGL did fantastic, and the recurring cast of the previous movies did fantastic. There's just a great cast, some famous people, some people that are getting up there. So I really do enjoy Dark Knight Rises, and I'm glad that this saga or series kind of ended on a high note. So that would be my top 10, guys. I really did enjoy this year in movies for the most part. There were some bad movies that came out, some disappointing movies, but I think overall that these 10 movies right here were the highlights of the year. And leave your comments down below on what you think the top 10 are. Make your own top 10. I did really enjoy making this list because I really did enjoy all these movies. So some of these are still in theaters, some of these are coming on DVD, and a lot of them are already on DVD. I definitely advise you check them out.